Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing was created for the Cocoa Vanilla Studio design team as part of our regular Throwback Thursday feature. Now, for anyone unfamiliar with this is a chance for you to catch up on some of the older release collections from Cocoa Vanilla Studio as our design team go through and stash bust one of our older ranges and create something fresh and new with it. Now, for this layout, I didn't go back too far. I actually went back to our Merry and Bright collection, which was released at Christmas time, or just before Christmas time, just gone. But I didn't have that much of a chance to work with this collection over the Christmas period, so I still had quite a bit of it left. And I thought, what better time than for Throwback Thursday than to go back and revisit this collection again and create a Christmas page. Now, for all of those people who know me, you are probably falling off your chairs right now because you probably know that I am not the greatest fan of Christmas scrapping, and it's not something that I tend to do a lot of, simply because I find that usually I don't particularly like a Christmas colour palette. I also tend to find that a lot of my photos that are taken at Christmas time aren't the best to work with, and I just find myself lacking motivation to create Christmas pages. However, I did have this fabulous photo of my boys with Santa that was actually quite hilarious, and that motivated me to pull out this range and get another memory documented. So I decided to create a mixed media page for this one, and you can see there that I have already got the wood grain print paper as my base, and I'm also working with some white cardstock there with some distress oxides and also some acrylic paint. So I did start off by mixing up one of those distress oxides, which I did on my messy mat and mixed it with some water, and then I used a wide brush to brush it over my page. But once I brushed it on and I sort of dabbed up the extra liquid, I had a look at it, and it was a little bit too watery. It was too light on the page. So I went back and I re-brushed it again just so that the colour would stand out a bit more. So I actually had the green colour running over the sort of upper portion of my page there. And then I went in with sort of a dusky pink acrylic paint and my brayer, and I just rolled the paint across the lower portion of my page. I just wanted a sort of patchy application, nothing too strong, so that I had those two contrasting tones for my background, which do tie into some of the colours in the collection. So once I had those in place, I pulled out a 12 by 12 stencil that I found in my stash recently that I had even forgotten that I had. And it had some stars on it, so I pulled that out, and another distress oxide, and then I just used a little makeup sponge just to dab the colour through the stencil and applied the stars in 3 different spots on the page. That was basically it for my background. Oh, no, it wasn't. I actually did do some stamping on it, which you will see me get to. I did stamp on my page also using a small star background stamp. And I just roughly stamped over the same areas where I had already put the stenciled stars on the page, just to add that extra layer and just a bit more visual interest in the background. Now, with the layers of paper that I've got on my page, I went through and had a look at what I had left of this collection. I gathered together a few papers that I thought would coordinate well. I was particularly drawn to the star print one because I thought that would tie in really well with the stars that I had already put on the background. I also had a scrap of that one that's got the little doodle Christmas trees on it. And I also used that wood grain print again just to mat my photo. So all I did was I cut and tore these pieces, layered them up, and you'll see that once I have them all in a stack together, I'm actually going to staple them together using a long arm stapler, and that allows me to move the stack of papers around my page. I can move them around on the page, off the page, wherever I like, and it keeps them in the order that I want them in. You can also see on the screen there that I have a paper doily. Now, I did have to decide between whether I was going to use a white paper doily for this or a coloured paper doily. I did in the end opt for the coloured one because the white one just looked like it faded too much into the background. Given that I already had white space around the edge, I also had the white border on the photo, and I've also got that star print paper which does have the white background. So I thought I needed a little bit of extra colour, but I didn't want to put in any colour that was going to draw away from the colours in the papers, which is why I opted for that nice neutral grey. That also tied into the fact that my boys were, well, one of my boys was wearing a grey shirt in the photo, so that worked well. So you can see that I have got all of those papers stacked up. Now you'll see that diagonal stripe that I've got there, that pink and red diagonal stripe paper. I did pull out the 12 by 12 initially to work with, but then I decided that I would pull the same paper from the A5 paper stack and use a sheet of that in my layers instead. I've also added some frayed gauze to the top of my layers just to add some extra texture to the page, and that goes along with the fact that I have those torn edges that I have ruffled up the paper on just to give the page plenty of texture. Now, with my paper stack, I did use my T-square to make sure I had those papers nice and straight on the page, because there's nothing worse than having your anchor piece, crooked on your page. I did fluff around with it a little bit just to get the placement right. I wanted to make sure that there was enough of the stars showing at the top. I didn't want to have it sort of too heavy at the top of my page. Now you can see I am fiddling around. I am trying to choose a card for my journaling, because it was really important to me that I actually put the journaling on this page, just to explain what was going on with the look on Santa's face, who looks quite stern in that photo, I must say. He was wonderful with my kids, but yes, he was quite stern when he questioned them about their behaviour, and it was hilarious. So I ended up choosing that card from the pocket card pack that had that frame on it, because I wanted to pull in that wood grain print again. It had the flowers at the top there, and I just took it off camera and typed my journaling on there with my typewriter. Now, that was all of the main elements of my page in place. It was simply a matter of going through and embellishing my page. I had that large arrow there from Charms Creations, which is a handmade embellishment. And I love the fact that the Hessian gave the page even more texture, but it also tied in with the whole wood grain thing. I like the fact that it all sort of worked together. It gave it a little bit of a rustic look almost. Then it was simply a matter of going back with some of the coordinating embellishments from the collection. You can see I've got the gold puffy stars out on my desk there. I've also got the die cut ephemera pack and the accessory stickers. Now, I did use a couple of the accessory stickers directly up on that left corner of my photo, because there was actually, I believe it was a sleeve or a finger or whatever it was that had gotten in the way of the camera. And I didn't want to not use this photo because that was there. I knew that I could just cover it up with an embellishment, so that's exactly what I did. Now I'm just going through and tucking in some of the die cut ephemera. You can see that I'm going to create my 3 embellishment clusters. There'll be one in the top left corner, one sort of on the right hand side there, and then there'll be one along underneath the bottom edge of the photo. Now, one thing I will warn you about is my camera actually cut off the last few minutes of footage of this layout. So the last couple of steps you won't be able to see me do, but you will see that I've almost got everything in place by the time that that cuts out. So I'm just tucking in some flowers from the ephemera pack and those really cute little houses there. What I do is make sure that I bend up some of the edges of the flowers. I also bend up the tops of the houses just to bring some of those elements up off the page and just to help them pop and just to add to the dimension and the interest on the page. So the steps that you will not see me do in this layout is I took 3 of the puffy gold stars. So I've got 1 in each cluster. I did initially go to glue them down, and then I thought, no, I might staple them because they staple really easily, and it also adds that extra metallic element, which is always good for a masculine page. Now, to tie in those gold stars, I added some gold pearls, which help tie in the gold, and I also added some gold splatters of mist at the end. And that was everything that I did on this page. I really enjoyed revisiting this collection, I must say. Don't fall over in shock. And thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.